Well, the government is strengthening climate risk reporting and working to develop a sustainable finance strategy. It's been welcomed by those within the industry. Treasurer Jim Chalmers spruiking the plans at a sector event this morning.
Today is all about more clarity, more consistency, better disclosure, cracking down on greenwashing and making sure that our financial system aligns with our emissions reduction goals.
Joining me live now is Kristy, CEO of the Australian Sustainable Finance Institute. Thanks for your time. What does this mean? Because we're talking about disclosures has been a big priority for the government. They want Australian companies to have to disclose what their risk in climate and how exposed they are in terms of the extent to which they emit carbon dioxide, etc. Is that what we're talking about?
Hi Tom, thanks very much for having me. Yes, disclosures was a key pillar of the government's announcement this morning, and it's disclosure not just of emissions from companies and financial institutions, but the climate-related risks. So we're seeing increasingly extreme weather events, and the physical risk as well as transition risk is already creating an impact on both business and financial institutions. So making sure that disclosure is more comprehensive, credible and comparable between different entities was a key focus of the government's announcements around disclosures this morning.
Okay, so if there's a big fossil fuel company or a company involved with a lot of fossil fuels, for example, they're not doing anything illegal, they just need to tell shareholders, what potential investors overseas as well, here's how our business is run, here are our plans for the future, here's how we might reduce risk a little bit, or here's what we're going to do.
That's right. So disclosure is about providing transparency and providing information for investors, financiers, as well as other stakeholders. And the reality is most big companies in Australia are doing this already. So they're already reporting in line with the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures guidelines. And so what government has done is introduce a consultation paper to look at what a reporting framework in the Australian context that builds off that international best practice and baseline would look like.
So what's allegedly going to be stamped out as so-called greenwashing if a company says, look, yes, here's the current set of our business, but it's going to be a lot better, we're going to get into a lot more renewables or clean hydrogen, whatever it might be, the truth of that will be more important, so that will be more closely audited. And from an investor point of view, the point is that you don't invest money and you see a very different environment in 10 years' time and something that company's struggling to keep up, you go in with your eyes wide open.
That's right. So it's all about providing more information, both to the businesses and the board, their shareholders, as well as to investors and financiers, so that it's really clear as the economy continues to transform towards a net zero 2050 future, what the impacts of that will be on individual companies and therefore across investor portfolios and bank loan books as well.
What, in terms of the actual impacts, is it maybe going to make it harder to get finance internationally for some of Australia's companies that have more of an exposure?
So this is already starting to happen, Tom. Global capital markets are very much moving in the direction of sustainability, and part of having more rigour and international interoperability of these disclosure regimes means that international investors are much more confident with disclosures and reporting that would come from Australian companies. So this has already happened in terms of international investors really running over this type of reporting with a fine-tooth comb. Having baseline standards that Treasury's announced today will be very valuable in demonstrating that Australia is keeping pace with international developments in this area.